God being infinite and the only being, He must be both employer and employee. In other words, God is the only one, and inasmuch as there are not two, there cannot be one to employ and one to be employed. There is only oneness, oneness of being, and God is the only being. God is infinitely and eternally employed. God is about His own business, and the Son of God must always be employed and about the Father's business. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. This may be simple to do when the favors and the good things are being showered upon you, but when they are seemingly withheld, are you just as able or as quick to say, "Thank you, Father, that too must be part of your activity"? You must acknowledge God in all your ways, not just in some of them. Humanly, there are times when there seems to be failures. Even for these, thank God, because through your recognition of God, failure too may result in a higher good. Failure may prove a blessing if you have the vision to turn to the next thing, instead of staying in the rut where you have remained due to some temporary success. Acknowledge Him in all your ways, whether it seems to be failure or success. Thank you, Father. I am the instrument of your being. I have no wisdom of my own. I have no age, no body, no soul of my own. I have no goodness of my own. There is but one good, but one life, the Father in heaven, and I am that place where the fullness of the glory of the Godhead shines through. If we always sought spiritual guidance in every activity of our experience, with no attempt to translate it into the human realm, we would be so spiritually fulfilled and illumined that each illumination would lead us not only to our true spiritual teaching, but even to such mundane things as finding the right dress, the right car, or the right apartment. In the scale of God, there is no difference. God is fulfillment. Spiritual illumination cannot come to you without bringing with it your correct employment or your rightful home. God cannot be divided. God is not divisible. The activity of God does not include one thing and leave out another. God could not reveal itself as some form of right activity and then leave you without supply. And God could not reveal itself as supply and leave out right activity. Often it seems that these do not appear simultaneously, but this is because we have prayed amiss. We have prayed a divided prayer, praying for things, or praying that Spirit reveal itself only in certain directions, instead of praying that God reveal itself as light, as the fullness of light, the fullness of illumination, the fullness of truth. God's garment is whole, complete, and perfect. When God places the mantle about your shoulders, it includes your entire being. Go to God expecting to receive the spiritual awareness of His presence. Watch then how it appears outwardly as the harmonies of your daily experience. In simple things or in the very deepest experiences of your life, you will then find completeness and perfection by seeking the Father in spirit and as spirit. Do not seek to divide the garment. Do not pray for health or wealth, safety or security, or peace on earth. Pray only that God reveal itself as truth. Pray for light, for truth, for more wisdom, for illumination. Seek the whole garment. Seek truth, light, revelation, illumination. Worship Him as Spirit and let the whole garment descend upon you and reveal itself as supply, as home, as joyous relationship, as right activity. Thank you, Father. I have no desires. I need nothing but Thy grace. I need no one but Thee. Let me live every single minute as I am living this minute. loving this universe, and loving everyone in it. I hold nothing against any man. No one can come within the range of my consciousness who needs forgiving, because I have already forgiven him 70 times 7. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Son, all that I have is thine. The fullness of God's glory, not just part of it, but the fullness, is now mine, swallowing up mortality with its limited sense of life and clothing me with immortality, swallowing up my finite sense of self that I may be clothed upon with God's infinity, God's grace, God's presence, and God's power. I have no power of my own. I of my own self can do nothing. I of my own self am nothing. If I speak of myself and my power and my supply, I bear witness to a lie. The Father is my life. The Father is my supply. I am invisible. My supply is invisible, and I carry it with me wherever I go. If God is the substance of all form, can you increase the amount of your form? Is God the substance of limited form? No. The form is already infinite as the substance of which it is made. The secret lies in the acknowledgement of God as omnipresent. More than that, as omnipresence itself, the presence of your very being, and therefore the presence of infinity. Your awareness of the presence of infinity reveals infinity where the lack has been. Infinity is the measure of God. The moment, however, that you try to demonstrate apples, you have descended into finiteness. The minute you try to demonstrate a home, health, or wealth, you are in finiteness. But if you demonstrate the realization of God's presence, you have God's presence appearing as infinity in infinite forms of good. The presence of God does not manufacture some form of harmony. The presence of God is itself the form of all good. Are we dwelling in the secret place of the Most High? Do we live and move and have our being in a complete and utter reliance on the presence and power of God? Do we live and move and have our being and consciousness in an attitude of love, of giving and sharing? Do we live as if we really believed that the place whereon we stand is holy ground, that right here and now the presence and power of God envelops me and mine? Do we live from early morning until late at night in the conviction that God is directing our path? Do we live and move and have our being in the attitude of listening for God's direction, for God's guidance and protection? Are we living and moving and having our being in the realization that underneath are the everlasting arms? If we are, we are of the elect, of the household of God. We are of that heritage whose gift is righteousness and peace on earth. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on God, in reliance, confidence, hope, and expectancy. Or have we divided our allegiance between faith in God and an equal, if not greater, faith in some human ruler, potentate, or power? Are we of those who acknowledge that God is our life, and therefore our life is indestructible, invincible, immortal, eternal, harmonious, vital, useful? Are we continuously acknowledging that God in all of our ways